session chairs here, and it is my privilege to introduce Jeff Schenck to you. He is a CTO at San Francisco-based Choose, which is a office catering company. He's got a lot of great things to say to you about REST today. So please enjoy the talk, and yeah, have a great time.
Hello. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoy what you're about to see. I hope it builds on the last talk. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to see it. I know it was also about REST, so I hope this isn't redundant. I hope it's additive and exciting. I want to talk to you today about the REST Ascendancy, which is a way overblown title for what is basically, in my mind, the way that web development is starting to shift. I'm sort of seeing this shift. I think a lot of us are, with JavaScript taking a bigger and bigger role, and what that does to the tools that we have to build websites out of, and how our tools, I think, need to do a little bit more work to kind of keep up with web development. So an outline, what we're going to talk about. First, I'm going to talk about why that's the case. What are these big tectonic shifts that are leading us into this world? Two, I'm going to talk about what is the state today of REST. What REST tools do we have, and how do they basically work? Because for all the basics, they work great. So I'll show you that. I'm going to talk about at least what my pain points are, and I've corroborated these with a lot of other people, so I don't think it's just me. What are these pain points that we're starting to see given these shifts in the way web development happens? And then how are we going to fix these? How are we going to help our tools help us? What can we do to make the future a better place for Python and for the web so that I can keep programming Python for the web, which is something I really enjoy doing. So let's start talking about why REST and REST APIs are such an important piece of this. And the short answer is these guys. Angular, Backbone, Ember, some of these very heavy, very big front-end frameworks are starting to take some of the load from what we traditionally used to do as web developers, which was all on the back end. So if you take a look at kind of the longer answer, the front-end code has always been, traditionally display logic, interactions, and the back end was your application logic, database, cache, other services. At a very rough level, that's kind of the breakdown we've had. And the way we talked between them was HTML, along with CSS and JavaScript and some of these other good tools that we have. And that worked pretty well for a while. And then we wanted to do a little bit more on the front end. We wanted things to be really responsive. We wanted people not to have to wait for a whole page load. And we kind of jammed in this Ajax thing. And generally at first it was kind of like these one-off Ajax things that you would write in jQuery, and I want this to happen on the server, and then it would respond, and it was all kind of a one-off hacky mess for most applications at the time. And that held us over for a little while. But with Angular and Backbone and Ember and these guys, what I see is a pretty fundamental shift to where the front end has now taken over a big chunk of what used to be done on the back end, this application logic. And so now you're seeing application logic happen on both sides of the equation. And we needed something new. Because you're now doing application logic in a much bigger, much more substantial way on the front end needed a way to talk to these services, the database, the cache, and all the other services you have traditionally on the back end. On kind of a much more low-level system, get closer to the raw data. And so, you know what we need? Representational state transfer, which if you didn't know is what REST stands for. So REST gives you a really easy and simple way to communicate with your data, usually in a database, but any other data store is fine. And like I said, this helps a lot when you're doing all of this application logic in the front end. Cool. So let's talk about where REST is and where our tools are for building these REST APIs that underpin some of these new front-end technologies. So, as you all know, Google Trends is the canonical source for anything like this. Totally makes it. Okay, so you'll see something interesting happen over the last couple of years. Is Django REST framework has just completely broken away from everything else, and that includes Flask RESTful, Django Tasty Pie. Django Piston is dead, don't use it. And Pyramid has Cornice. All of these things, there's lots of good things to learn from these tools. There seems to be a ton of momentum in the community around Django REST framework. So that's, I hope I'm not disappointing anyone. A lot of my examples are going to be in Django REST framework, and we're going to talk a little bit in the context of that in particular, because it gives us something to really sink our teeth into. But a lot of these problems that I'm going to talk about, I think, apply equally well to the other frameworks that we have. And for a little more context, Django REST framework had a Kickstarter just a few months ago, I believe, to do Kickstarter 3.0. REST framework 3.0, which included some serializers, nested writes, and validation, better validation framework. Some really cool stuff. It hit 800% of its fundraising goal, which was £32,000, and I have no idea how many Canadian dollars that is, but it's good money. So there's a lot of community support for this tool. So I want to give you some examples of what Django REST framework would do with a REST API, and what a really, really basic REST API looks like, so that we can build on top of that knowledge and start to talk about some of the issues. So, serializers. The first thing that you need to think about when you're doing a REST API is serialization and deserialization, right? You have this data, which is, say, in a database, and you need to pull it out and represent it as something that can then be sent over the wire by your API and consumed by a JavaScript framework. So it needs to be able to translate back and forth between JSON, XML, and your kind of native Python formats. All of the tools, all of the REST APIs do this super, super well. It's kind of a core competency of these things. You get that more or less for free. You can see it's 4 lines here to serialize a cat, which I do all the time. The next thing you need is views in at least the Django REST framework world. Basically, what this does is it wires up the actual data that you're accessing and the serializer that you're using to represent it. So this is, again, it's just 3 lines, and you get a lot for free here. So you're telling it which cats to serialize and how to serialize them with the serializer we just defined. Then there's kind of a quick one-liner to turn that into a URL endpoint, and suddenly you've got a REST API. You can hit that cat endpoint and get a list of cats. You can hit that cat endpoint and create a new cat, all kinds of things. And so you can see, for the really simple stuff, this works so well. It's really very straightforward to create these basic APIs, which is awesome. I want to tease one of the, I'll warn you, it turned out that a good chunk of what I have to say about this new world and where we need to take REST frameworks has to do with permissions, authentication and permissions. And so I wanted to tease kind of what do permissions look like today in Django REST framework, at least. And you know, the other frameworks there are definitely differences in how they represent this, but roughly similar concepts. And basically what you've got is a permission subclass that defines has object permission or has permission. And this, basically, you can write your custom logic inside of there to say, based on this request, I know it's this person, they have access to this thing, so yes, no, they do or do not have permission. And that's it. They'll either get a 401 access denied or whatever it is, or they'll get the object. Great. So let's talk a little bit about the pain points that are involved. Like I said, there are a couple of big tectonic shifts, I think, in the way web development has been trending over the last few years. And I want to talk about kind of the big tectonic shifts that are affecting the way APIs are built. And the first is to think about who's the consumer of your API. You know, traditionally, I think if you go back, it was very common to see developer-facing APIs, right? You want other developers to be able to hack on your tool, to be able to build cool stuff on top of your thing, and like make these, composed flows of cool stuff, and the internet was going to be great. And it's still cool, and you can do some really cool things with developer-facing APIs, but I think that it is not any longer the primary use case for building a REST API. I think the primary use case, for a lot of us anyway, is your own app. You're writing this REST API for you to use in building your own website. And sure, it's open to the internet because it has to be, and theoretically someone could come in and start using it, but it's not documented externally. It's not meant for people to come in and work on it. It's meant to build your app on top of. And I think this change in the consumer of the API has some really important implications in terms of what it needs to be able to do. It needs to be so much broader in scope, because if you think about all the things your app needs to touch and think about and work with, it's broader than most of the developer-facing APIs would be. And I think that suddenly the permissioning systems get more complex because you're dealing with different kinds of users who have different kinds of permissions coming from different kinds of places. It's not quite as on rails as a developer API experience might be. So the other big tectonic shifts I want to talk about is what we already mentioned. So you remember this shift from the back end and the front end now taking up a portion of your application logic. A good chunk of your application logic now being done in these front-end web frameworks. I think there's another important way to think about this shift, which is you used to have untrusted and trusted, and now you've got application logic running in an untrusted environment where you didn't really have much of that going on before. JavaScript runs in the browser. We have no control over what happens there. We can't guarantee that the code that's executing is secure. We can't guarantee that what we wrote in terms of using our API is what is actually happening. Anyone could do anything with that API, which means it's more complicated. The permissions and the authentication are more complicated than they were, and getting it right is more important than it ever was. So I think these are the key shifts that have caused kind of this extra layer of complication that we need to now solve. So let's talk about some of the things that happen with authentication and permissions now. I want to talk specifically about the kinds of authentication, just to give you kind of an overview of what the tools are, what we're dealing with here in terms of authentication in your REST API. You can do session-based auth, which basically just plugs into, if you're using regular session-based auth in your regular API before a REST API, you can kind of just use that same session-based auth. It's a little bit hacky, but it works fairly well. You can do token-based authentication. There are these things called JWTs, or JOTs. It stands for JSON Web Token. And it's basically a signed representation of a claim. So like, this person can do this thing with this thing. Can be kind of compactly represented, like you see there, and sent back and forth along the wire. It's a format that's meant to be passed back and forth with every request. So that's an option. You've also got signed authentication. So you've got a URL, and you just plop a signature on top of it to say, yes, this person can do this thing. This is great if if you want to, for example, reset your password. You've seen those signed URLs in those emails to reset your password. That's the kind of thing that this is typically used for. And then, of course, many of us want to do all of this. Our application uses two of them. We use session auth and signed auth. We haven't used tokens, although we might one day. And so, of course, doing multiple of these in concert adds extra complication as well. So let's talk about some of the problems with permissions and getting those right. There are a lot of different kinds of permissions that I think application logic has to deal with that were really trimmed down when we were just dealing with a developer API. Your application is going to have all kinds of things. It's going to have table-level permissions, which is basically, can I get all the cats, or can I get any cats, right? Can I reach this endpoint or not? Do I have permission on that? You can talk about column-level permissions. So do I get to see the the password field? Do I get to see the price field? Do I get to see some of this other sensitive data? You can talk about row-level permissions. So which cats do I own? And therefore, which cats can I look at? Which cats can I edit? We can talk about read versus write permissions for any of those things, right? Can I edit the price of an item, or can I just read the price of an item? And of course, most of us already know writes are more complicated than just writes. You can create, update, delete. There are lots of complicated ways to think about that. We mentioned a minute ago, there are many different ways to authenticate a user, and many of us, I think, will use at least two. And so suddenly you might have a user who's logged in by their session, but also has a signed URL granting them certain other permissions, and how do those two work in concert to make sure that you're getting the right permissions set up on this thing. And of course, again, you might want all of these things, and in fact, we regularly do all of these things at the same time. And I think you can imagine just how complicated that gets. But if you are having trouble imagining how complicated that gets, I'm going to show you. I want to show you a real-world example. This is very lightly edited from our code base, what we're doing for just one of our API endpoints. And I want to walk you through so you get a sense of what it takes to write the permissioning for this endpoint. So right off the bat, you can see we're using a special mixin. We wrote this thing ourselves called a signed view set mixin. Allows you to do kind of signed URLs. From there, we jump down and we see permission classes. And this is where you define which permissions apply to this endpoint. And then you see this weird OR thing. This comes from a third or maybe a fourth party library outside of Django REST framework called REST condition. And it allows for composing various permission classes into more complicated permission classes. So you can or and, or not any given permission and combine them all together into one mega permission, which is obviously way more maintainable than if you had to write each one of these over and over and over again. So we've got this OR, which basically says if any of the following lines turns out to give this person permission, then they're good to go. So this is all a little bit specific to our application, so I'm not going to go into an obscene amount of depth, but I want to give you a sense of how complicated this gets. So the first one is if they are a member of this organization and the operation is read-only, or if they are an admin at that organization and they're not trying to patch any particular fields that they're not allowed to patch. This is another thing that we had to build custom, is this patchable fields factory. So for example, they're able to patch the guest count on this meal that they're getting. We do food. So on this meal that they're getting, they can patch the guest count, but they can't patch the price on their own, right? They can't set all their meals to $0. The next thing is a vendor admin, right? We have two different parties who can see this order, the person selling it and the person buying it. So the vendor can also see this order. Or if you are both signed permission and read-only, so this is that signature we're talking about. So you can arrive here from a URL with a signed permission, and you're only taking a read-only action, then you can see this order. Or if you're an internal admin user, you just get permission. So that's already pretty complicated. It takes a lot of work to compose these things together. But we're not done yet. So that was just for object level permissions. We also need to do list level permissions. Those are done separately in most of the frameworks that I've seen. So if you want to get a single order, that's what we were looking at before. If you want to get a list of orders, that's what we're defining here now. So you subclass this, you define a get query set method, and if the user is authenticated and their staff, then they get and their internal staff, they get the whole list. If they're authenticated and they're not staff, then you do this complicated query that we don't need to go into that hopefully does roughly the same thing you saw a minute ago in the permission class list. And if they're not authenticated, they get bupkis. OK, so that's a basic example here. I want to talk really briefly about kind of what that all took. Let's recap what we just saw and kind of break it down. We saw a number of different libraries being used. We saw Django REST Framework, of course. We saw REST Condition, which is also forked from the original library to fix a bug that we found. Signed view sets, which I mentioned that we built in-house to do signed URLs and give permission that way. And the patchable fields factory that I mentioned that determines which fields you can actually edit versus just read. So we're dealing with a lot of kind of specific code there. But actually, I think more important is let's look at how many different places in your code base permissions exist for this one endpoint. This one endpoint of your API, permissions exist in a lot of different locations. You saw there was a mix-in that we had to provide on the viewSet class. There was a permission list we went over on the viewSet class. There was a getQuerySet method that you had to override for the viewSet class. There's fields that you have to specify on the serializer class, which I didn't even show you. And there's permission classes, which you saw in use, but you didn't see their definitions. That's too many places. That's too much code in too many places for you to keep track of what's going on and be sure that this is working. I think it is way too prone to errors. I think this is something that is way too complicated to really properly maintain. And I want a maintainable set of permissions and authentications for my app. I think that this is incredibly important for where we're going. So let's talk a little bit about the future and what we can do better, hopefully. So the things I'd like to see, and oh, sorry, I should have warned you up front. This is going to be one of those talks that ends with me saying, these are what we should do next. I have some ideas. I don't have the solutions today for you. So I'm hoping that we talk about this, and you guys can come up to me afterward. We can talk at the sprints. I want to make this a better world. I want to make REST something that we can do easily. And I want our tools to work for us instead of against us, so that Python can have a really strong place in the world of web development. I think this is required for it. So one thing that I'd like to see, better tokens and signed URLs. We need libraries to do these things instead of having to build a lot of this custom every time. We've done a lot of work on this. I'd love to get it to a point where it can be open sourced. A lot of you probably know how hard that last mile is. We're very interested in open sourcing it, so if you're interested in working with us on some of that, let me know. I think combining object list and object permissions is really, really important. All the libraries that I've looked at in any depth split these up at least to some extent. And I think writing the same concept 2 different times in 2 different styles in 2 different places in your application is just asking for problems. We need to come up with a unified description for what the permissions are, whether it's a list or a single object. Because I think 99% of the time, that's what you're doing. You don't actually have separate specifications for each kind. And then I think organizing permissions by who's authenticated rather than by what endpoint you're working with has a lot of promise. I've done a little bit of like specking out what that might look like, and I'm really excited about it. Like I said, I think the main problem with all of this is that things live in too many places and it gets too complicated and too hard to maintain. And if we can pull all of the authentication and permissions into one centralized location where you define it all right there, that will help immensely. So, like I said, I want your help. I think that this world can be so much better than it is. I want us to make REST better together. See, get it? Yeah. So if you have examples of prior art, if you know, like, I keep having this feeling that we're missing something from somewhere. So, like, this is a common problem. Someone, somewhere, whether it's, you know, Unix-y things or whether it's Ruby or whether it's JavaScript even, someone's got this figured out really well, I think. And they're just laughing at me right now. Maybe you are too. And if you are, come and tell me. I have to imagine there's a good solution to this somewhere. If you know, if you have any good ideas about this, I want to hear about them. Come talk to me afterward. I want to make the web better together. I want to be able to do it in Python. And I think that we need this as a community if we're going to keep doing that. So, like I said, I'm Jeff. I got to plug Choose really quickly because they paid for me to be here. My company Choose is awesome. If you need better lunches at work, let us know. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm sorry, do we have a minute? We got 5 minutes, so you guys get to ask me hopefully some easy questions.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi.
I'm an old guy. And, you know, it's like you make lunches, and I love salt. You know, sometimes I like the sea salt, but most of the time, you know, the open wound really demands some kosher salt.
Have you had Malden's?
And you're pouring it in. So I'm going to start by saying what you don't want to hear, okay? And what you don't want to hear is, hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help you, okay? Those words are dangerous. But in this case, what you're doing, and the salt, and what makes me hurt so much and makes me so bitter, is you keep using the wrong words, okay? There's this nickel and dime organization up in Gaithersburg, Maryland. It's called the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Or if you're cool, you can call it NIST, okay? And they have some people there who do nothing but think about this crap. And they get
I'll warn
paid
you, I'm
with
not cool
your
at
tax
all.
dollars, okay? Huh?
I'm sorry, I wanted to warn you, I'm not cool at all. So.
Okay, no, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing, first of all, it's really important to use the right words. The words you're looking for and the term you're looking for is INA. Okay? Identification and authorization. Two separate concepts. And you're using different words, and you want to use those words, okay? And then what you want to do is you want to go to the NIST website, and you want to see what the last, oh golly, 40 years of industrial and military security have done, okay? There's a lot of good stuff out there. And what you're doing here is germinating the most incredible difficulty for somebody 5 years from now trying to do something with, the PCI standard and trying to, oh, okay, we want to get this thing so we can actually run credit cards through it. You know what I'm saying?
Can I ask you a favor then?
That was the question. And the question is, do you think you can maybe rewrite this thing to handle something like the NIST, the NIST standard? Is that something you might want to think about?
So here's what I'm going to ask of you.
Sorry.
Here's what I'd like from you. Can you come talk to me? Because like I said, I want to know these sorts of things. For the record, I didn't write almost any of the tools that are in use here. But yes, I want them to be better, like I said. So come help me afterward.
Yeah, I'm just a bitter old guy, so that's cool.
Any other questions?
You have time left?
You're all good.
I made a time. I don't know about you.
I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I don't know how much I trust what I'm saying, but if you opened up the database directly and you didn't have REST, then how much of what you're talking about can be supported? Like if you look at Postgres, it has column-level permissions. It has row-level permissions. You can do business rules in a stored procedure. So
yeah, I thought about bringing up, you know Schemaverse from DEF CON a few years back?
I'm not familiar.
There was a really interesting, since I'm doing this from memory, I'm sure I'm going to mess up some parts of it, so forgive me. But there was a really interesting game that got created in Postgres at DEF CON that sort of tested the limits of Postgres' ability to handle these sorts of permissions in, obviously, an environment where everyone was going to try to mess with it. And they basically made a game where you would run SQL commands against it using authentication and, oh, I'm sorry, all the right terms. And that's, you won the game by either cheating, if you could prove that you could break it, or actually working with it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think there's some really interesting things we could explore in terms of existing systems and how they work with this stuff. And I think Postgres, you're right. Everything I've heard about it, I haven't tried to stress test it that way, but everything I've heard is it's better than you might think at that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, I really like your comment that having or one thing in 2 or 3 or 4 different places is bad.
Yeah.
And these REST applications are almost always database backed. So you have to have a database. It has to have its own permissions.
Yeah.
So to what extent can we just have it there and nowhere else?
Sure.
Anyway, that's all I got. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We've got time for one more.
Okay.
So I've done a similar kind of composed permission system, and we have performance problems as a result. What have you guys done, like, in queries type things where you're doing query per row and pagination and all that? So
we are lucky to be a relatively small startup and don't happen to have a whole lot of scale issues yet. But so I don't directly have the answer to your question. I think that there are ways that you can work with caching. I think that there are ways that you can work with streamlining these permissions. I'd like to find a way also, because I think, when I look at those sorts of things, I fall into the same thinking that you seem to have run into as an actual issue, which is, are we really going to execute a database query for each of these things in this OR? And isn't that pretty awful? And I think it is. And I think that there's a way to both combine all of your permissions into one location, as well as combine the queries, combine the work that you're doing. So depending on the scale of your application, there may be other things you have to do with caching and whatever else. But I think that combining permissions can also be part of the solution to that, if that makes sense.
Cool.
Thanks, everybody, for coming out.
Thank you.
Lightning Talks are happening next door. Enjoy your PyCon.